stay in our institute along with academics. Cultural activities are ingrained in the bloodstream of our students, and the testament is the exhibition that they have made. Now, without much further ado, let me all welcome you to this valedictory session. Marching ahead enthusiastically in the two-day conference, we have reaped a rich harvest of insights from our guest speakers who have deliberated upon the nuances of theme of the conference we have seized, throwing ample light with a fine bearing of understanding. Now we are on the second leg of the event, reaching its culmination, the valedictory. Now, in order to accord a warm welcome to the gathering, I request our beloved Professor Dr. Vivek Chauhan, Associate Professor, Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Department of English, Vrindavan Campus, to deliver his welcome address. But let me give a brief bio to our professor. A doctorate in comparative poetics from the Agra University, Dr. Vivek Chauhan is an innovative educator, adept at bringing the 21st century into the college classroom. He is skilled at utilizing current educational hardware and software, both in and out of the college setting. With over 25 years of experience as a teacher, mentor, and associate head, responsible for the innovation and development of new programs and initiatives, Dr. Chauhan is experienced at designing curriculum which meets criteria of the 21st century classroom. Proficiency in both the spoken and written word has provided him opportunity, leadership, and advancement with the educational setting and outside. He possesses the vision to lead, instruct, and mentor students in a highly competitive world. He is currently working as an associate professor, Department of Languages and Literature. His areas of teaching include British literature, literature and translation, English grammar, and phonetics. Now I request sir to deliver his welcome address.
Most loving salutations at the lotus feet of Bhagwan Baba. Respected Vice Chancellor Sir, elders, dear colleagues, and my dear students, it gives me great pleasure in welcoming you all to the valedictory function after the two-day-long deliberations we had on literature. And I'm tempted to quote Shakespeare, who says, "Parting is such sweet sorrow that we bid goodbye till tomorrow." So it doesn't mean that we will not be returning. We'll be returning with a greater force the coming academic year. That's what I believe. And I would also like to say that, as it is said in English, all good things must come to an end. So, of course, I'm not saying that our endeavors are coming to an end. We will be at it from year to year, and we would be improving upon this. I have two things to say. One is about our critical faculties that have been tested, and we have come out very successfully after 2 days. After listening to the erudition of the Chancellor, the Vice Chancellor, and the Director of the Anandpur campus, and then listening to the three plenary speakers, erudite scholars, all of them, and of course then listening to, research scholars from across the country, it has been a very great pleasure for all of us. I think all of us agree. It has been a really great pleasure. It has been a treat throughout. There has been no session that has been dull. All of us believe that, and we have experienced that in these 2 days. And then, see, we have, all our critical faculties awake, and all of us have been on toes, and we have done our best, made our best presentations over here. And then talking of the creative part, of course, you saw the creative part towards the end. Our boys had been so creative, they had, projected their poetry. And you've seen a bit of the creative part also. What I would like to say is, in the coming academic year, when we have the next lit treat, let us focus more on our creative part, along with the critical part, in the sense that, as it is said in Sanskrit, apare kavya sansare kavireva prajapatihi yathasmai rochate vishwam tathedam parivartate. That's what the great poet Mammata says. Apare kavya sansare, in this limitless world of literature, kavireva prajapati, the poet or the writer is the prajapati. Prajapati is the creator. Yathasmai rochate vishwam tathedam parivartate. As he or she desires, that's how the world becomes. So the world of literature is a world without limit. The sky is the limit for the creator. And who is the creator? Here the writer himself is the creator. The poet himself is the creator. So therefore, apart from our critical faculty, you see in the creative faculty, the sky is the limit. That's why, getting inspiration from our BA boys here, who have been very creative, you saw this. I would like that, let us all think of what creativity we can, showcase to the world. Like it is said again in Sanskrit, Sahitya Sangeeta Kala Vihina Sakshat Pachuhu Puchcha Vishanahina. So the three things, Sahitya versus literature, Sangeeta music, Kala is art. So they are not separate. All these three are allied. Then you cannot separate literature from music and music from arts. Okay, all three are allied. Therefore, our endeavor should be to focus on our creativity. You can select any genre. You may be good at writing a poem, you may be good at writing a story, short story, or an essay, or you might even turn out to be a great novelist, who knows. So therefore, let us work towards our creativity, and that is going to be, that will pay you in the long run. And with these few words, I would not like to take much of your time, because we are coming to the close of the session. And I thank all of you for this wonderful lit treat. Thank you. Sai Ram.
Thank you very much, sir, for that rousing reception kind of a address. Myriad colors of life, myriad words. Words come. Sometimes they elude our grasp, but they are sure to come. So, sir's diction has made the statement very clear that we rely on words, we survive on words. For literature, the words are the only investment, as the same is the investment for poets. Poet, lover, bird watcher, all compact lie. So, wonderful address, sir. Thank you. Now, we would like to invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, to give away awards to the best paper presenters from 7 groups. for which we had technical sessions yesterday and today. I request sir to give away the awards to the. From panel 1, Ms. Lakshmi Chandra for her paper titled Facing the Threads, Nostalgia and Identity in Morid, Bergotti's I Was Born There, I Am There. From panel 2, we have Deflabet Krian for paper titled Tophalia and Cultural Homogeneity Navigating Kasi Worldview. From panel 3, we have Surangana Goswami for paper titled Reconstructing Resilience, Framing Tensula O's Three Women as a Narrative Beyond Struggle. Of Ramayana as a feminist epic. From panel 5, we have Seba Elizabeth Sizzi for her paper Passion, Politics and Socio-Political Turmoil, a study in pursuit of larger truth in Rahul Verma's No Man's Land. From panel 6, we have Satyapriya Darshini S for a paper, an eco-stylistic reading of Amitav Ghosh, The Living Mountain. From panel 7, we have Smita Vivek Jakani for her paper, Vulnerability and Resilience, Childhood as Perceived in Young Adult Fiction by Paro Anand and Ranjit Lal. Thank you so much, sir. Now we have conference report by Satyapriya Darshini from 2nd MA, student from the Department of English.
Om Shri Sai Ram, invoking the divine presence of our founder chancellor, Bhagwan Shri Sathya Sai Baba. I am here to present a brief report of the proceedings of the two-day national conference titled Lit Treat Edition 5, Language, Literature and Beyond, conducted by the Department of Languages and Literature English of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning in collaboration with Literary Voices on the 14th and 15th of March 2025. The events of the first day began with the traditional invocatory Vedam chanting by the students of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning of Anantapur campus. Then, the ceremonial lamp was lit by the dignitaries, which was followed by a video presentation of the Department of Languages and Literature, Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. Then, Professor Rani P.L., Dean of Humanities and Social Sciences and Languages and Literature, and the Director of Anantapur campus, welcomed the august gathering and set the stage for the conference, highlighting that literature is timeless and universally relevant. Following this, the Vice Chancellor of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Professor Raghavendra Prasad, addressed the audience and stated that world literatures reflect the complexities of human experiences. Next, the Chancellor of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning delivered his introductory remarks on the evolving landscape of literature, scholarly perspective. Sir emphasized that the field of literature has undergone an evolution and transcended the boundaries of social, technological, and cultural influences. This was followed by a brief note on literary voice delivered by Dr. Bhagyashree S. Verma, Associate Professor of English, University of Mumbai, and also a reviewer of Literary Voices, who read out the voice of Literary Voice. Then, two plenary talks, the first by Professor Bharati Harishankar, Vice Chancellor, Avinashi Lingam University for Home Science and Higher Education for Women, and the second by Dr. Poonam Niham Saheb, Head and Associate Professor of English, Ranchi University. The first talk, titled The Expanding Horizons of English Literary Studies, explored the way literature gained an appendage over time through the evolving dynamic perspectives of the contemporary times. The second talk was titled Engaging the Indian Learner with Novel Instructional Strategies, Understanding and Concerns. Dr. Saheb highlighted the need for dynamic student-centered approaches, instructional methods, and tailor-made teaching methods in order to encourage inclusivity and equity in education. The first day of the conference ended with 4 parallel technical sessions of research paper presentations by postgraduate students and research scholars from various institutions across India. The second day of the conference began with the invocatory Vedam chanting by the students of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Nandagiri campus, which was followed by a video presentation. Then, an enriching plenary talk by Professor Jibu Matthew George, Professor of English Literature, EFLU, who spoke about the ontology of religious narratives and doctrines and the latest areas of research in the field of religious studies. This brought to light his concept of equireversible ontology between theist and atheist perspectives of religion through literature. The morning session concluded with 3 parallel technical sessions of research paper presentations on 3 distinct themes. The post-lunch session of day 2 began with an intellectually stimulating quiz session conducted by the students of First MA Anantapur campus, which challenged the participants' knowledge of literature, both classical and contemporary. Then, there was a soulful musical rendition of slam poetry creatively written by the budding poets of the first BA English Honours students of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Nandagiri campus, to put together the magnificence of the creation and the benevolence of the Creator. The day 2 of the conference concluded with a valedictory session. The welcome address was delivered by Professor Vivek Chauhan, Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, which was followed by the prize distribution ceremony of the Best Paper Awards for the best research papers presented in the technical sessions. Next, the valedictory address by Dr. Bhagyashree Verma, Associate Professor, University of Mumbai, and Reviewer of Literary Voice, and the concluding remarks and vote of thanks by Dr. Mithali Khanna, Head of the Department of English, Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. The conference concluded with a Mangala Arati. With this, I conclude the conference report presentation. Thank you, Saram.
That was a brief conference report by Satyapriya Darshini from 2nd MA. But as we embark on this valediction, the stage is all set and the stage is adorned with yet another erudite guest speaker who has consented to deliver the valedictory address for the event, Dr. Bhagyashree S. Verma, Associate Professor of English, University of Mumbai, also a reviewer for the Literary Voice, a journal of English studies. Dr. Bhagyashree S. Verma will be speaking on the contemporary scenario and new trends of research in literature. But something that stands indispensable before really letting her to speak, a quick glance at her bio would enhance our understanding of what Bhagyashree S. Verma ma'am is all about. Bhagyashree ma'am has about 26 years of experience teaching various courses in English for MA, MA Honours, MPhil and PhD, and a good number of pre-PhD, and a good number of researchers have been awarded degrees of PhD and MPhil under her supervision. Dr. Verma's prominent publications, widely read and admired, are Women's Autobiography, Woman and Self, and Amrita Pritam, Life as Literature, and her poems in Marathi Dharwal. 2 volumes of Marathi short fiction by women, published by University of Mumbai, include stories translated by Dr. Verma from Marathi to English. She has worked with Deepthi Naval, the well-known film artist and poet, as her language editor, and has published an interview with the actress poet in Muse India, the online research journal. Presently, she is translating Deepthi Naval's works. Dr. Verma has coordinated 3 refresher courses for teachers from all over India in University of Mumbai on behalf of UGC, HRDC, on themes like reviewing Indian literature, new approaches to literature and language, and teaching literature and language, then and now. Apart from designing the syllabus of newly introduced papers in MA Honours for courses like literature and philosophy, creative writing and Indian aesthetics, Dr. Verma has resourcefully contributed in structuring syllabus to introduce MA in translation studies with 26 courses, including the essential and optional papers. Dr. Bhagyashree is the Maharashtra Secretary of FSLE, Foundation for Studies in Literature and Ecology. She has contributed in various national and international journals as writer, editor, and peer reviewer, including Literary Voice and Yashasri. She is also the co-editor for Shodwari, the journal of University of Mumbai, started in 2020. During her tenure of last 2 decades, Dr. Verma has presented many research papers on various national and international academic events on the topics from areas like the poetry of classical authors, Indian aesthetics, issues in translation, research methodology, teaching of literature, etc. Her area of study extends from immense works in Western Indian writings to world writers in comparative literature and translation studies. She holds the privilege of being a resource person to deliver keynote addresses, panel speeches, and extension lectures to various colleges and institutions on domains like alternative thinking, gender theory, and creative writing. The list is endless, exhaustive, and comprehensive too. So without wasting much of our time and her time too, now I invite ma'am to deliver her valedictory address.
Hi Ram. Good afternoon to all of us in this hall, waiting for summing up of the celebration that has started since yesterday morning. And I am kind of mixed feelings right now, overwhelmed. Since yesterday, day before yesterday evening, I have been flattered, pampered, honored, humbled. So all the things here. And I come down to stand before you for this valedictory presentation, which I should confess is my first valedictory. Though I delivered a few keynote addresses and lectures, many of them, but it's my privilege and honor to deliver the first valedictory presentation here. And as they say, the opera cannot end till the fat lady sings. So here we have the last phase of the opera. Since yesterday, the discussions that were happening, I could observe that Madam Poonamji, she has covered major areas of language, being the master of language. And today we had the expert lecture by Jibu sir, who covered the area of theory and research. Though these are not watertight compartments, we study them separately only for the sake of convenience. I think this is a right time for me to come back to the area of literature. As the title goes, language, literature, and beyond, what is beyond in the areas of religion, philosophy is already given by Dr. Jibu, and language, as I said, by Poonamji, and I'm coming back to literature. So when we talk about literature, my concern begins with the ambiguity of defining literature. How do we define? The very business of defining something is ambiguous. For example, I ask you, what is light? You will not be able to define light unless you know darkness. So something that is not darkness can be called light, probably. There are simple concepts which are difficult to define. And I think literature is such an area full of simple concepts. So if we are out to define what is literature, let us first understand this business of defining anything with the baggage of ambiguities, which is very important for us. So when we talk about language, we are focusing communication mostly. We talk about literature, we come down to creation. I'm trying to simplify for the sake of students, and beyond, religion included. So beyond is also religion, spiritualism, occultism, all the supra-segmental entities that were referred by Dr. Jibu. But can we really do without literature? अंधकार है वही जहाँ आदित्य नहीं है, मुर्दा है वो देश जहाँ साहित्य नहीं है. You know, if you have literature, it's a sign of life. Life is literature. My first book was given a title by my erudite teacher, who suggested that I should call it Life as Literature. Because we seem to separate life and literature many a times in an illusory way, but do we see literature in life? And of course, we do see life in literature. So when I was writing, what is the importance of literature? And I was also emphasizing everybody should write. I am so happy, so happy to listen to the poetry here. You know, the young BA boys, as they were described by somebody, BA boys. And I thought I should write a short story, BA boys of Nandagiri. You know? And such nice poems, a Punjabi poem, a Urdu poem, Nepali poem, and you see the English versions, and you see the music, you know, aligned with that. So my emphasis is all are entitled with this ink inside. You should write. Some people say, I never write. I don't write poetry. I can't write poetry. I believe everybody can write poetry, just like everybody can sing. Even if some people say, I'm a bathroom singer. You know, they don't sing, they say, okay, I hum. I will say, I am a kitchen singer. because I sing in the kitchen when I cook. So whatever you do, the capability, the capacity, the creation is inside you. You have to dig out and explore. My first line, which I had written long back in my college days, was why people should write, ताली से तालीम का ताला ना टूटेगा. अगर ताली बजाओगे ना, तालीम is education. ताला lock. ताली बजाने से तालीम का ताला ना टूटेगा. कलम से काले करो कागज. कलम से काले करो कागज, तब कहीं इंसान जमी से ऊपर उठेगा. I am talking about literature. Next one, next slide. So if we look at why do we study literature, we begin with asking questions like what is literature, why literature, finally coming to how to study literature. All the WH questions. So I am not going to give you a suggestion that you go and read Sartre and the book of Sartre, why should we study literature? But before, even if you do that, before that, how do we define literature? What is the use of it, the usefulness of it, society, how life and society is seen and defined in literature, and is literature really useful? Is it meant for being useful? Matthew Arnold says all great art is useless. You know that. And what is the meaning of being useful or useless? If you are useful, you are practical, you are pragmatic, you are in the society. And if you are not useful, then the question is about the use. I had read an essay in my college days which was called, What is the Use of Poetry? Poetry is also useless. Like Matthew Arnold declared, all great art is useless. Ghalib gives you a correct answer. Mirza Ghalib has a very beautiful answer. He says, Log पूछते हैं इश्क का क्या फ़ायदा? What is the use? What is the use of love? लोग पूछते हैं इश्क का क्या फ़ायदा? अरे इनसे पूछो फ़ायदे का क्या फ़ायदा? Right? What is the use of the use? You go back to Plato, you talk about utilitarianism, why Plato banned poets from ideal society, because for Plato they were useless, right? So how do we do? Read, write, research in literature. We go to the past canons, we see the contemporary scenario. Sometimes we call it studying text and context in literature. I'm going to briefly talk about research that happened in the area of literature as literature then and now, and what is the future of literature if we look at literature. I'm asking myself and I'm asking you about what is the future of literature with this all interfering, encroaching technology, media, globalization, and to top it up all, AI, right? So, religion can be in the bottom of life, like we have an iceberg. You can see the upper part of it, which is literature. An invisible part of literature is religion, philosophy, psychology, mythology, even mathematics. What is not hidden in literature, in the subtle layers? Next one. So if you talk about not only why should we study literature, but what is the use of literature, and you look at isms in the classical canonical background, where we had utilitarianism, like I referred to Plato, we had pragmatism, idealism. I'm not going to isms, all of them, but I remember a Chinese proverb which is important for me. Sometimes the simple things teach you so much, and the simplicity kills, as we say. So simplicity is important in life. However, heavy jargon you pick up, you become a theorist, you become a fan of fano, you do a lot of research and use heavy language, but finally you have to come back to simplicity, because what is killing is simplicity. So Chinese proverb was, if you have 2 rupees, buy a piece of bread with one and a flower with another. The bread will keep you alive, and the flower will teach you how to live. If you want to learn how to live, You have to go to the flower, you have to go to the butterfly, you have to go to literature. So that is something we need to remember, the declarative purpose of literature, the sublime purpose of literature, which can be instruction and delight. As Horace tells us, literature is that which teacheth and delighteth. On the right side, if you can see the line of Manav Mastishka ka Anumanit Chitra, the picture of brain, of human brain, how the human brain functions, people have a misunderstanding, a great misunderstanding about literature, that it is something which has to do something with the heart, with the emotions, with the, and slightly there is a misnomer, less brainy people will go to literature. An intelligent child will go to science faculty, medical, engineering, polytechnic, something very important. But literature, okay, you're not going anywhere, you can go to literature. It's kind of notion we have spread in society. Look at that. But if you look at the scientific explanation, the human brain is working in a literary fashion. We have Drushti Kendra, optics, Shabd se Chavi, everywhere you understand everything through the words, which is diction. Chavi se Shabd, imagism. If you go back to imagism and ask Ezra Pound what is a butterfly, imagist poetry that is defined by Ezra Pound, what is a butterfly? He says, a petal fallen from a flower flying. That is imagism. You can see a petal fallen from a flower flying becomes a butterfly. So something that we have, Anukulan Kendra, which is copy or mimesis or reflection. Plato and Aristotle have a line of discussion on that. Samvedana Kendra, we call it. It is all the parts of brain which are all related to literary areas. Samvedana is sensibility. Ajna Kendra is order, how we create an order. Yojana, plan. Vyavahar, behavior. Bhasha, lingual capacities. Shravana, audio. Vakya nirman, making sentences. Structure. Bhavanao ka Kendra, which is emotive. And Smriti Kendra, which is memory. Memory and literature are actually interwoven so tightly you cannot separate them. Literature is a discourse of memory most of the times. So man and religion, we have the concept of spirituality between the relationship amongst men and human beings and religion. And next please. How do we define literature? How do we find literature useful or useless? Though Dr. Jibu made it very clear when he said that reductivism is something like concretization, and sometimes people reduce the concept into the labels. Literature as the intersectional and interdisciplinary agency, if you look at literature not as one discipline but as a bridging discipline in between the intersectional area of all other disciplines. It is a theory and a practice. It is a resource and a research. Of course, a huge, huge resource. Literature as philosophy or spiritualism. Literature as language or usage. My grandma also used to tell me stories when she was not a literate person, so to say. But oral tradition is a part of used literature. We know that. From the oral to the written literature, we have traveled. And spiritualism. Then we have media potentials. Content creation. Now people are going, the young people tell me that they are working, many of them, as web content writers. So see the scope of content creation, despite Google, despite AI, despite ChatGPT, despite all the machinery around, we still need human brain for language, for content, for creation. Data creation or translation, which is now my upcoming interest. I have been translating in 7 languages, from Indian languages to English and from English to 7 Indian languages, and I found that basically all languages have a similar grammar, though all languages have a different culture. So it depends on whether you are translating grammatically or you are translating culturally. There are multiple types of translations. There is a media translation, there is a transfer of language, there is, in Sanskrit we have theories of translation simplified. Shabdanuvad, word by word. Bhavanuvad, feeling is translated. Chayanuvad, multiple shades of meaning. Shade of meaning is chaya. Chayanuvad, The meaning is translated. And finally, Arthanuvad. The exact meaning is translated. And recently, after the Sanskrit is slightly kept in the corner, we are going to media. We have a new discourse coming up, localization, domestication, foreignization, all the techniques of translation clubbed together is called Madhyamanuvad, the media transfer, which is so important. I'm also very happy I attended this short paper reading session by young children on film narratives. I'm so happy to see in this corner of the planet people are doing a real research. You know, they are working very nicely, very intelligently. Yes, next please. So how can literature be used to learn living skills, the skills of life as we call them? What happens when we think? Because literature is born out of thinking. So what is the source of literature is thinking, the art of thinking, the skill of thinking. As I explained, the capacity of brain in the function of thinking. So if we look at the thinking process, apart from Bloom's taxonomy of thinking, if you have read about that, thinking skill, spoken communication, composition, concept formation, research, principle formation, comprehension, decision making, problem solving, everything is related to thinking. And the life that you live, the life that you receive, the life that you believe is dependent on how you think. The question is how you think. There are multiple ways of thinking. There is creative thinking, there is critical thinking, there is analytical thinking, there is interrogative thinking, there is argumentative thinking, there is alternative thinking. I'm not going to positive and negative thinking. But look at the alternative thinking. It is such a nice philosophy coming up. It was always there. Probably we didn't realize it was always there. I remember a child who was failed in some subject in school, and the child was very unhappy. His father was a teacher of philosophy and had been researching in alternative thinking. The child went to the father and said, "Arey, Papa, again I'm failed in this subject, chemistry or something. It's so difficult for me." You know what the father said? "Beta, that is very good. It's good you failed. You know what happens in Mushaira? When you go to Mushaira, people are reciting their poems. If the poem is very good, if somebody has a very fantastic ghazal, what people say, the audience says, once more, once more. You know? So your subject is so good that your teacher is telling you once more. Right? That's why you failed. Now, how to look at things? Life is not success or failure, my friends. It is how you look at it. And that is what alternative thinking teaches you. Yes, next one. So how do we research in literature? You know, in the beginners of research, I find a lot of confusion. My students, you know, are fond of singing Bollywood songs. So what do? They describe their mental conditions in Bollywood songs always. They say, हिंदी में जो गाने हैं ना, उसमें सारी लाइफ की चीज़ें आप बोल सकते हो without telling in language. So if you are beginning a new research in MPhil, PhD, MA project, you say, क्या करूँ, क्या ना करूँ, ये कैसी मुश्किल है. You know, you don't understand how to do research, what to do in research, how to do it, why to do it. There are so many questions. Not only that, but apart from, as I referred to Bloom's taxonomy for thinking, there are management skills which are required for a beginner. I'm talking about the researcher as a beginner in literature. So what are the management required? Time management, money management, memory management, trade management, community management. Now, if I ask you, you are going to commerce for management? More than commerce, the management is taught by literature. Time management, how to organize your time, how to organize your memory, how to organize your money also. You know, so many skills are there which are management skills, and if you go to the stories of literature, you learn them. I have recently discovered that we don't teach emotion management. I met a French lady who is conducting the classes of emotion management. She teaches children how to control anger, how to control fear, how to control anxiety. We don't have that syllabus. Nowhere in the subjects we have in the universities and colleges a subject called emotion management. Let us think about it. Research-oriented questions are there. So how do you propose your research? That is called ideation. You have an idea. You have to work on the idea. Introduction, you have to find the proper wording to put up your idea. Hypothesis and problem, you have to imagine what will be the problems and what will be the shape and structure of what you want to do. Statement, core arguments, data and referencing, rethinking and finding. Rethinking is so important because I mentioned to thinking. Thinking skills is multiple phases, but rethinking is critical. It is analytical. And also findings and observations, and finally the researcher will arrive at something destined or destination kind of thing, which we call conclusion or summing up, where you have some declarative points that this is what I have been reading, this is what I have been writing, yes. So if you look at the questions and challenges that are for research quality, E for emotion, I have already mentioned emotion management. Now let me mention another two phrases. One is emotional intelligence. So far in my childhood, I used to hear that head is something different. It is a brain, reasoning, intellectual people. They are not emotional. They are so, practical people. And somebody is emotional, we say, oh, he is an emotional fool. So it is foolish to be emotional. Emotion was weak. Right from Plato, it was condemned. If you are a hearty person, if you are emotional person, you are feminine, even if you are man, right? So this was kind of dichotomy, kind of dilemma, kind of opposition where emotion is opposite of intellect. Let me tell you, friends, we have been able to merge these two so seemingly opposite areas. They were never opposite though. Can you live without the head? You cannot. Can you live without the heart? You cannot. If you think of living without the brain, it's asylum, where you can live. If you think of living without the heart, it's not possible, because it's called death in the mortal world. So if the two organs of the body are equally important, how do you decide whether head or heart, intellect or emotion is superior or inferior? Or is there any competition kind of thing? So emotional intelligence is a phrase that makes me happy to some extent, but the discovery of the phrase is in the corporate world through the advertisement. So there is, from the song Babul Ki Duaye Le Tija, the girl is going to in-laws' house and she is weeping and crying, and why she is crying, I don't know yet. I'm not able to understand. So now we see that the girls nowadays, maybe they are not even crying. Some girls go happily. Okay, they found their mates. That can be a change, but my question is, from the times when the song was popular up to now, I saw an advertisement where the girl is married, she is about to leave her house, her father, and she is weeping and crying, and this vidai, the separation of the daughter, and the father brings a Titan watch with the diamonds in it, and the girl is happy. That is emotional intelligence. Right, so who is using it first is corporate world, marketization, commercial world, and they teach us how to be emotionally intelligent. Not only that, but the other phrase I want to focus is AI, we call it artificial intelligence, because it is artificial. But my primary question was, is it intelligent to be artificial? But then we found there is a full machinery called AI, artificial intelligence, and we are also using it. What are your questions now? What are the challenges that you see for the current studies or the future studies as teachers, as researchers, as students? How or what do you plan for yourself in coming times? I'm just raising questions for brooding upon, for pondering over, for all of you. And I found out something like a formula, E5 for ethics, economy, experience, existence, and finally, E-communication. So eternity is being reduced to E5. We cannot live without emotion, though we have the measuring of ethics, changing ethical values. There are also certain ethics we call ethics of research. And also economy and experience, of course, because we learn through experience right from pre-Shelley and post-Shelley journey of innocence to experience. And existence. not existentialist struggle before we reach that, the very question of existing. I think, therefore I exist. Email as e-communication, next one. And if we try to simplify the research as a process, we have only a prime condition. There can be certain methods we follow. You know, in Shakespeare, we have a popular sentence in Hamlet, be it madness, there is a method in it. Even if it is a madness, there is a method in it. You cannot be even mad without the method. The method is so important. So, genre-wise method is one possibility where you have the shape of a triangle. This was actually in terms of a drama as a genre, but I found it is applicable to all the genres. Is it poetry, fiction, non-fiction, prose, short fiction, everything. You have a rising plot, rising action. You have the beginning with the conflict, with the suspense building elements, with a series of events there or expressions, exposition of characters, setting, conflicts. Everything is introduced in the form of a story or a narration or a description. If it is a poem, it can be a description, it can be a pictorial imaging, or falling action leading towards the fulfillment, what we call not summing up or conclusion, but fulfillment of the form, and gets worked out. The tensions should be lessening and the resolution should be found after the conflict is resolved and the themes should be established. So every literary genre looks to me like a circle that begins from a point and goes on and on and on and comes back to settle and create a full circle at the full point. The full point which T.S. Eliot calls still point. You know, so it can be the still point which gives you a sense of stability. The next one. When we talk about theorization, for example, I am not going to answer the question in detail, what is theory, because again, as I said, if it's an ambiguity of defining theory, it's going to be a series of definitions. But from Plato to present, the modern criticism also gives you a line of theories: literary theory, critical theory. Theorization itself is a process where we include 4 steps: conceptualization, textualization, contextualization, theorization, right? These are the steps of research. First, you have a concept, you conceptualize. You have a text, you textualize. You create a context or find out a context, contextualize. And finally, it's like a support of a theory, theorization, and implication without application. I am just giving you a list of possibilities where we classically, in the modern, postmodern times, learned to adopt these isms: feminist, Marxist, and feminism as different from feminist criticism, Marxism as different from Marxist criticism, structuralist or postmodernist or diaspora or gender studies or queer theory. Even now, the post-queer gender theories we have, right? Yes, next one. So if you are using theory, my concern is, are you not going to be trapped in use or utility or perspective? I heard the word perspective again and again since yesterday. It's not cliche to me, but I just saw that people are trapped in perspective. In search of a newer perspective, they are trapped in the very word perspective. So Shakespeare, if you are studying Shakespeare, for example, I was told that nobody can now do something new on Shakespeare. He is so overworked a writer, but now, again, I found it is endless scope, even in Shakespeare. My teacher used to tell me, you have to go to A.C. Bradley if you want to understand Shakespeare. And he used to also give a nursery rhyme for that. Once came Shakespeare to appear for his own paper, and he failed very badly because he had not read A.C. Bradley. So if you are not well versed, you can say this is not going to happen, but then I have recently given a topic to my own PhD candidate. It is rediscovering Shakespeare through Vishal Bharadwaj. And we are calling it the domestication of Shakespeare in India, which is so obvious. Not only obvious, but it is one kind of localization. It is one kind of acculturalization. Culturalization is something different, but Shakespeare is accultural because he is timeless. So if you look at why all the good teachers are crazy, I do not know. You have to ask your teachers. And there are questions like, which present-day theoretical orientations look at culture as dynamic and unstable, where norms and values are continually being contested or reinforced? I have given some points for the researchers to study, like the areas of cultural ecology, cultural materialism, neo-evolutionary areas of post-feminism or post-modernism, structuralism, and symbolic or interpretative discourses where we have time-bound and timeless authors. Yes, next please. So in applied literary research, we find C3 as a formula for the actual beginners. C3 is correctness, clarity, coherence. I was also observing the presentations in 2 sessions yesterday and today, and I found many people are confused about the formatting issues, the formatting. Some people had put full stop after the bulleted phrase. Some people were using capital somewhere where it is not needed. Spelling typos is okay, they will be corrected later on because you may be presenting in a hurry, but some of the papers were also mentioning literature review or future scope, which is not supposed to be, to me, it is not supposed to be the part of research paper. It's a part of thesis. Because you are talking about the future scope of thesis, because in the thesis you cover something, there is some space. In literary research paper, any research paper, how much you can cover? The future scope is obviously be going to limitless. So you cannot decide the future scope of one research paper in one line. It will be bigger than the research paper itself. Also, literature review is not required for research paper. It is required only for the thesis. These are the areas where correctness is required. C3 is correctness, clarity, and coherence. And people can talk about text and context, text and author, text and co-text. I would briefly clarify what is the meaning of co-text. Not only the text which is also emerging simultaneously, but I was told right from the beginning that original is original, translated is translated. Translation has a stepmotherly attitude received from the people. It is like a stepchild. I asked the question, why? Why translation is not original? Because I am told by Roma Jakobsen, by some critics, that when we think, we write, right? The literature, the print literature, the language literature is born out of thoughts and ideas. The thoughts and ideas are the original, like Platonic idea. So if idea is original, the first copy is also not first copy. How do you call it original? And if I translate Mirza Ghalib from Urdu to English, why my Mirza Ghalib is secondary in English? Adrian Rich translated Mirza Ghalib, Ejaz Ahmed translated Mirza Ghalib, and people, अरे गालिब को क्या अंग्रेजी में पढ़ते हो? उर्दू में पढ़ो, गालिब को पढ़ना है, उर्दू में पढ़ो. I understand that as a glory of the language, but my question is, I don't understand Russian. How do I understand Leo Tolstoy? Through English? People are allowed to do research in Leo Tolstoy in English without judging that it is a translated one. We forgot that Leo Tolstoy was originally Russian, but we remember that Mirza Ghalib is originally not English. So it's a memory. It's a deceptive fairy. Like Keats says, hope is a deceptive fairy. Now memory is a deceptive fairy. What do you consider as a translation? What do you look at as original? Is itself is a deceptive area. People in Western countries, people are demanding the copyright for the translator, because the translator also works as hard as the creator. Rather, sometimes he or she works more than the creator. If I want to translate Shakespeare, to be or not to be, that is the question. I need a lot of effort. जिए या मर जाए, यही है एक सवाल. You know, something like that. Maybe I can try that. But why my language should be secondary and why somebody else's language should be primary? Languages are languages. We talk about that always. So to me, co-text is the same text in another language. And this is not me saying it. Many critics have established this idea right from Roma Jakobsen. And versions and variations are there, adaptations and adaptations are there. So Text and media, text and theory, all these areas are coming up. Yes, next please. Connectivity through characterization. If you look at the elements like person's relation to society, nature, self, and the supernatural. The supernatural is actually discussed already, so I'm not going to repeat that. But if you look at what do we call protagonist, what is a round character, what is a flat character, what is a dynamic character, what is a static character, do you not find such people around you? They are real human beings. So life itself is full of literature, and we are looking at literature as the mirror of life, and also antagonist and foil, characters that provide a contrast to the protagonist. Next, please. And meta-language. Language on one hand, literature on the other hand, but the language of literature, talking about the language of literature in the language of literature is meta-language. You know, as we say, cinema has its own language. Literature also has its own language, that is meta-language. Emotion or thought or idea, coherence is needed. So you have a story, you may have a situation, a dialogue, a relationship, life or death questions, sense of loss or gain. I found in the historical times recently, post-World War generation, we have not only post-World War poetry, but also post-World War drama. And the generation was so lost. There was a great haunting loss after the Hiroshima-Nagasaki blast. People were lost, and they were called lost generation. Why they were called lost generation? Because they had no direction. It was loss of faith, loss of direction, loss of emotion, loss of families, loss of home, loss of fulfillment. Sense of loss was haunting them. Everything was lost, and why the generation was called lost generation. If you go into the era discourses, the discourses of the periodical eras, you will find plurality, which is more important than individuality, which is also called, in the language of linguistics, pluricination. Multiple, many, as postmodernism was referred earlier lecture. So we can relate to that. Plurality, also in comparative discipline, we have plurality as a very elemental feature. Inquiry, identities, truth, the question of truth, what is truth, and comprehension. So we have a lot of elements like action, choices, speech, patterns, feelings, comments, and appearances, which we need to judge and probe into. Next, please. So what is beyond? Language, literature, and beyond? Beyond all coverage area, as we say. And the formula for research is given in the right corner. If you can see that, it's theory versus tasting, abstract versus concrete, general versus historical, idea versus application, which can simplify your research. It can bring a lot of clarity if you use these formulas. And the recent discourse coming up and which is trendy now is comparative research. Singular research is already dying, it is dead. A singular author research, singular focus research is gone now, it is obsolete. So now you need comparative. You need 2 writers, 2 texts, 2 or many, 3, 4, many as you can have. And it explores spheres of human expression, standardizes final interpretations, determines characters, relationships, cultural concepts, endeavors and discovers general laws of ideal aesthetic comprehensions. It also investigates forms of aesthetic models of delight. It traces and typifies progressive channels, pluralities, facilitates appreciation process, and finally it identifies and re-establishes cross-cultural and interdisciplinary currents. I would remember the sentence of Amrita Pritam when I interviewed her in her bamboo house of Hauz Khas in Delhi. She gave me only one message in the end. After talking for 1.5 hours, I was so satisfied. My thirst of meeting the author was so quenched. And finally, when I asked, what message do you want to give me? She gave a very simple message, which I can remember lifetime. She said, look beyond the visible. Look beyond the visible, you will get your vision. And then you can be visionary. If you are able to look beyond the vision, or look beyond the visible, what is visible is just visible to everyone, what you see through. You know why we say, jo na dekhe, Ravi, wo dekhe kavi. The poetic mind can see something which we all are not able to see. Yes, next please. So comparison means what? We have formal comparison. I'm not going to read all the lines because of the time now. I'm just trying to skip it. Some of the phrases which you can read and understand, but some important points I'll just sum up. There is a ghazal by Jagjit Singh. Kya bura hai, kya bhala, ho sake to dil jala. If you want to understand what is good, what is bad, we have been talking about the ethics and the good and the evil so long, centuries after centuries. Have we really been able to understand that? So not only comparison as an act of perception or a comment, as a judgment, as a unifying principle or distinguishing merit or area of study, discovery or theorizing attempt or an attempt to clarify. Next, please. The modern stress buster programs around you find why people go to theaters. Now we have laughter shows also. We have stand-up comedies, we have coffee houses, we have poetries, mushairas, mehfil, concerts, open mic, gatherings, festivals. In search of good news, in search of good happenings or good existence, we are all seeking something. Next, please. And if we are all seekers beyond theorization, why are we seeking theorization? Also, there is a domestic space and a free space. And apart from the emotions we are battling with continuously, fear, guilt, anger, hatred, envy, obsession with the past, revenge, cynicism, suffering, self-pity, anything. You can see the whole list. It's a catalog of emotions. Finally, we sum up. I'm happy yesterday somebody referred to rasa theory. And if you understand rasa as the kind of aesthetic frame of life, not only those 9 rasas we list as erotic, comic, pathetic, furious, heroic, terrible, odious, marvelous, or quietistic, but also managing the rasas in the in-between. Something which is erotic can also be comic. And I found this area very fertile. My friend asked me once, why all the jokes, most of the jokes are created on women, on wives. है ना, बीवी पे बहुत सारे jokes होते हैं. You have the Surendra Sharma writing on पत्नी बोली, ए जी, यो आज़ादी को दिन कब आवेलो, मैं बोलियो जब तू मेके जावेली. Right? So simple examples. But my question is, when you talk about jokes on women, it's a sense of humor, it's irony, it's outlet, it's cathartic, it's cultural compensation. What is it? I love Surendra Sharma only for one reason. He has given me a feminist answer in a very small anecdote. There is a Tulsidas Doha, which is very popular after Ramayana. Tulsidas ji was yet writing the Dohas. He has written, which is a very objectionable Doha from the feminist point of view. He says, Dhol, Gawar, Shudra, Pashu or Nari, Yah sab tadan ke adhikari. These are all people worth beating. Who are these? Dhol. Beat the dhol. Dhol, Gawar, illiterate person. Pashu, Shudra or Nari. Yes, ma'am. Tadana is seeing. Yes, I know that. Tadan. You mean the double meaning of Tadan. I'm going to come to that. See, people have a patriarchal convenience also. So, Tadan ke adhikari is not only beating but seeing, because you kya taad raha hai? Something like that. But tell me the other words. Can you taad, can you see the dhol and it will play music? So there is a meaning in it. But my concern is Surendra Sharma's answer. एक पति ने यह पंक्तियां अपनी पत्नी को सुनाई. ढोल गवार शूद्र पशु और नारी यह सब ताड़न के अधिकारी, क्या इसका अर्थ समझती हो? He asked his wife, do you understand the meaning of these lines? The wife said, हाँ हाँ क्यों नहीं, इसका अर्थ तो बिल्कुल ही साफ साफ है. एक जगह हम है, 4 जगह आप है. ढोल गवार शूद्र पशु, who is that? Or nari. So I said, I love Surendra Sharma for this one answer. This is also humorous. But can humor help us laugh out at the discourses like feminism, at the discourses, at the structures like patriarchy? So humor is an unworked area. I wanted to suggest that most of the children, most of the students who are looking for new areas of research should come back to discourse of humor. Not the Chaucerian meaning of humor, which was the liquids in the body and maintaining your health, but the discourse of humor, which is creation of laughter, creation of jokes, and jokes and laughter can be a weapon sometimes. You see R.K. Lakshman cartoons. You can see the jokes which are created in the parliaments, not only the irony of Dhumil's poetry, Sansad se Sadak Tak. Mochiram is a shoe cobbler. He says, Babuji, मेरे लिए ना कोई छोटा है ना कोई बड़ा है, मेरे लिए हर आदमी एक जोड़ी जूता है जो मेरे सामने मरम्मत के लिए खड़ा है. If you look at that, you know, satire is completely the development of humor. ये कैसी विडंबना है, ये कैसा झूठ है जहाँ घोड़े और घास को एक जैसी छूट है. भाषण में जोश है, पानी ही पानी है, कीचड़ खामोश है. आज़ादी के इतने सालों के बाद जब चोरों की तरह मैं अपनी ही गलियों से गुजरता हूँ, खुद से एक सवाल डरते हुए करता हूँ, क्या आज़ादी सिर्फ 3 थके हुए रंगों का नाम है? You know, you have questions which will emerge only through humor and probably also the capability of laughing out. Yes. Next one, I think that is the last one. I want to say a big thank you, thank God, and also thank you to all of you. And let me declare, this is the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for the exhilarating talk. I fear a little to summarize ma'am's talk because there is a lot of feminism involved in that. So I don't have that strength and the grit to face criticism in the event of sparking up some controversy of talk. And I'll easily get subdued by the swell of women sitting here. So that I don't mean to summarize. But one interesting aspect that drew my attention is madness. If this be madness, there is a method in that. If this be madness, there is a method in that. Madness in great ones should not unwatched go. So these statements will connect with Shakespeare. And ma'am has opened up new vistas and new avenues to the pursuit of research is one thing. Another thing that I would like to slightly connect to ma'am's presentation of various aspects of research. And the word beyond is something very endearing. I wish to voice my fascination for the word beyond because there is a word beyond in our title. I wish to voice my fascination for the word beyond in the title of our conference. I endear to the active researchers who have gathered here to tether themselves to the melting pot of ideas, to go beyond human thought, like in Ulysses, to follow knowledge like a sinking star, beyond the utmost bound of human thought. All experience is an arch wherethrough gleams that untraveled world whose margin fades forever and forever when I move. These lines I cherish for the youth to memorize and to get them imprinted in their mind. And the lines from Hamlet, I quote, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. These lines inculcate the research verve, the research nod, the gumption, Not all who wander are aimless. Not all who wander are aimless, especially those who seek truth beyond tradition, beyond definition, and beyond image. To them, darkness is visible. So that is how I think I have connected ma'am's message in her talk. Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful talk. Now it's my turn to invite our head of the department, Dr. Maithali Khanna, Assistant Professor and Head Department of Language and Literature, Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, for concluding remarks and to propose vote of thanks. But before that, I would like to read a brief bio about this lady with the lamp. Dr. Maithali Khanna has done her bachelor's and master's in English and her MPhil in English literature from SSSIHL. Her MPhil was on the critical study of the contrasting ideas of sympathy and distance in select modern poets. She then received her doctoral degree from her alma mater in 2015 in the postmodern theory and poetry, examining the poems of Philip Larkin and Ted Hughes in an applied critique. Dr. Maithali Khanna joined Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning in 2012 as a faculty member in the Department of English Language and Literature. Her research contributions predominantly lie in the realm of postmodern literature. In addition to her regular teaching responsibilities, she actively engages in research pursuits and guides postgraduate and PhD scholars for their dissertations and theses. Currently, Dr. Khanna serves as the head of the Department of Languages and Literature at Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. Her areas of teaching include poetry, postmodern literature, linguistics and phonetics, Victorian literature, literary criticism, and her research interests happen to be postmodern poetry, literary criticism, and theory. Thank you. Over to ma'am.
With humility, I place my pranams at the lotus feet of our master, Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Respected Dean of Faculty and Director of the campus, Professor Rani PL. Esteemed resource persons for our conference, Dr. Poonam Nigam Sahai and Dr. Bhagyashri Verma. Respected invited session chairs, Dr. Paramita Shastri and Dr. Akhila. My dear teachers from the English department of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, colleagues, very dear participants of the two-day conference, very loving students from the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning and research scholars. Oh, let me, or can I, just propose a single common noun for all of us together seated in this room. A common noun phrase, English fraternity. So my greetings and sairam to my English fraternity sitting in this seminar hall, attending together a conference on literature and language. As we come to the close of the two-day conference of literature, language, and beyond, and as you all will begin your journey back homes, I hope that we were able to, or we have treated you with full of literature and life in our Literate Edition 5. So now I'm here to perform two jobs, giving you concluding remarks, summary of which, Venkatraman sir, you have already given. With Ulysses, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. And my pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks. Now, if you recall, all of us, all the teachers here, resource scholars, resource persons, research scholars, students, if we all recall, or even the current students, our elementary lessons in literature, way then, when probably Rani ma'am had done her BA and MA, and also now, in the contemporary times when the first BA students are pursuing their BA and MA, all our lessons, elementary lessons in literature, are actually in classical literary legacy. From Homer's Odyssey to Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, to Shakespeare's King Lear, to Milton's Paradise Lost, to Pope's An Essay on Man, to the expressive turn in literature with romantics, to social realism of Hardy and Dickinson, to modern sequestered style through imagism of Eliot or symbolism of Yeats, or stream of consciousness of Virginia Woolf, to postmodern psyche in Larkin or Sylvia Plath. We all graduate to grow and diversify into more specialized areas, as diverse as the theme of this conference, from Indian writing to narrative studies, trauma studies to children's literature, stylistics to language studies. Then, as literary scholars, we want to get more rigorous, more scientific, and then we embrace theoretical frameworks and branch out more, discovering the roots of theories and adding more to the existing ones. Now, does this mean that we are leaving the classical, the foundational behind and getting more contemporaneous? Let us not forget, the roots to all the widespread branches of literary studies for each of the literary scholar is in the classical literature. We cannot pass our BA and MA programs without mastering the classical texts and theories. As a tree grows and spreads wider, stronger and deeper its roots grow. So do our hold on the classical literature, provided we are nurturing and watering the roots time to time. Yesterday, Bharti ma'am alluded to T.S. Eliot's pastness of past in tradition and the individual talent. This essay gets only more relevant in the present tug of war between the classical and the contemporary. Eliot affirms, and I quote, "This historical sense, which is a sense of the timeless as well as of the temporal, and of the timeless and of the temporal together, is what makes a writer traditional. And it is at the same time what makes a writer most acutely conscious of his place in time." Please note, and I would really advise all the budding research scholars, kindly go back. If you have not read this essay, you must read this essay. The deeper our roots are, the farther can we spread and diversify. He also makes an important note in the essay: the past should be altered by the present as much as the present is directed by the past. And that is the conformity between the old and the new. Literature, language, and beyond, the first part of our title. As literary and language scholars, we must understand, as much as beyond is important for the existing literary tradition to grow and evolve, the foundational literary and language traditions are imperative for the beyond to survive the test of time. The emerging frontiers of this English studies, the second part of our title, seek to find interdisciplinary spaces in English studies. And as the speaker, I think it was Dr. Bharti, mentioned yesterday, literature in here, those spaces. However, what is more essential here is not just to discover the intersecting domains, but also be aware of the boundaries. And I would like to quote one of the American philosophers here, Iris Widmer. In his essay, he writes, in his essay titled Literature and Philosophy, Intersection and Boundaries, he emphasizes on the boundaries of literature and philosophy when we speak of intersection between philosophy and literature. And he says that two factors that define the boundaries of the disciplines are the author's intention and reader's expectations from the text. A writer's intention of crafting a text will be very different from a philosopher's intention. And a reader's expectation of a literary writer will be different from that of a philosopher. And to understand the intersecting space, these boundaries need to be thoroughly understood, for which, to borrow again Bharti ma'am's distinction, I hope she was here, I think I'm quoting her a lot. Bharti ma'am's distinction, understanding literature is essential before we explore literary studies. As new frontiers emerge, as scholars, we must be careful and cautious that we are only watering the roots of literature and not uprooting it from its tradition. Only then the multifarious branches of literary studies can thrive. The old and the new must meet for old to shape the new, for new to expand the old. And this was the very intention of this two-day conference on language, literature, and beyond, exploring new frontiers in English studies. And I hope the participant scholars feel a bit more richer in their aptitude to doing research in English studies. Now comes the most pleasant duty assigned to me, an opportunity to deliver expressions of gratitude. As a person of language and literature, it would be appropriate to begin my word of thanks by thanking the word in uppercase, W-O-R-D. Just imagine, we never met any language, and thus we knew no experience. We knew no experience, we felt no emotion, no expression, no interaction, and we would be then in T.S. Eliot's unreal city, under the brown fog of a winter dawn, where a crowd did flow so many, but Eliot confirms that death had undone so many. Our every minute, every sound, every word, every emotion, every experience is an expression in words, in sounds, in every minute. K.K. Daruwala, and in his poem, with the permission of my scholar, I would quote it, before the word, he rhetorically asks, what was it like before language dropped like dew, covering the scuffed grass of our lives? This metaphorical image explains clearly that our life was a scuffed grass, till language, like a dewdrop on the grass, reflected the pied hues of our lives to us. Words make us meet ourselves, know us by knowing others, and thus I thank the word, which was once with God, trickled down to us as His grace, as strings of words that today I have in use to express my gratitude. I thank literature, its literariness, that strengthens our emotions, sensitizes us to be more empathetic, broadens our perspective, and deepens our insights into life. With the blessing of words and literariness that we possess, I, on behalf of the English fraternity assembled here and joined us online, express our collective gratitude to our beloved Bhagwan, who gave us the word and the perception. To Bhagwan, Sri Sathya Sai Baba, who is, in Shakespearean expressions, as again Dr. Bharti yesterday told us, we can go back to Shakespeare for everything. So in Shakespearean expressions, he is the ever-fixed mark who looks on tempest and is never shaken, and is the star to every wandering bark, guiding our every action, making his vision our mission. Thank you, Swami, for always guiding us to do good, be good, see good, and speak good. That's the way to God. Wait, you will get the time to clap. To the very supportive and encouraging administrators of our university, we are truly grateful. From our Honorable Chancellor, sir, always inspiring us to be inquisitive and know more about literature, to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Registrar of the University and other administrators, who always stand by us as strong pillars of support, I express heartfelt thanks. To all the distinguished guests who traveled all the way down south, despite the rush of work on their calendars, I deem it my honor to express my gratitude to each of them. Professor Bharti Harishankar, Vice Chancellor Avinash Lingam University, Professor Jibu Matthew George, Professor of English, FLU, Dr. Nigam Sahai, Associate Professor, University of Ranchi, Dr. Bhagyashri Verma, Associate Professor, University of Mumbai, please accept our sincere gratitude for your time, insights, scholarly presence, and words of wisdom. Thank you, ma'am. Despite the busy heat of March, the directors and the deans who graced the inaugural session, encouraging us with their presence, I express my gratitude to them. On behalf of the English department, I also place on record our deep sense of gratitude to the Literary Voice, its team, especially the chief editor of Literary Voice, Professor T.S. Anand, and representing Literary Voice here, Dr. Bhagyashri Verma, for giving their consent for the collaboration and constant support thereby. Rani ma'am, thanks. First, for conceiving the idea of Litreat in 2020. Second, guiding us through the five editions of Litreat. Third, for always pushing us to perfection. And the list is unending. In your various capacities as a senior professor of the department, dean of the faculty, and the director of the campus, ma'am, your support was immense. Thank you. Dear participants, thank you for honoring our decision of going completely offline. Your efforts to travel all the way and attend the campus on-site has encouraged us to hold such conferences in future too. Thank you for your very active participation during the main events and technical sessions. Hope you all had scholarly and sacred stay here. The convener of the event, Dr. Soumya, Assistant Professor of English, thank you so much. It's your conviction, your undaunting spirit, and a very organized way of working that made the edition 5 see, of course, the light of the day, but even today's evening star. To all the faculty of the English family at SSSIHL, I will put it in a very simple terms. Because you were there, the idea of Litreat 5 manifested. From reviewing abstracts to hosting guests to making food arrangements, venue decorations, being at registration desk, budget management, organizing cultural event, and much more, you all were all over. Thank you, Del. Now, to the strength of our department. The main force behind the scenes, the organizers of the program who, from the conception of the main theme of the conference to working relentlessly towards everything that was required to make this conference a success, our strength, our pride, Dell Research Scholars. Ms. Lakshmi, Ms. Pratiksha, Ms. Harshita, who I am sure has joined us online, Ms. Vaishnavi, Ms. Meghna, Ms. Pen Doma, on behalf of all Dell teachers, very big thanks. Without your dedicated efforts towards every part of the planning, this conference, and I mean it, would not have been possible. A big round of applause to the English department scholars. My dear students, BA English from Anantapur campus, BA English first years from Nandigiri campus, MA English students from Anantapur campus, you are the inspiration for us to venture into conducting something like this. Your inquisitiveness to know more wants us to make you meet scholars, listen to scholarly talks. And thank you for all your dedicated help towards making this event a success. I would be failing in my duty if I do not sincerely express my gratitude to the director of Prasanthi Nilayam campus for helping us with venue and other arrangements. While T.S. Eliot's Prufrock measured out his life in coffee spoon, we could warm up our minds in a cupful coffee, in cupful coffee sips. Paneer, mango shake, Russian salad, chickpea, ice cream immensely contributed to a tummy-full attention to the sessions. And we are grateful to the Chief Warden of the Prasanthi Nilayam campus for preparing special and delicious dishes for the occasion. Without the strong support from the audiovisual team, especially Raghuram sir, social media team, the administrative office staff, accommodation office, and the support staff, the smooth conduct of the event would not have been possible. Thank you all. Last, but not the least, to all the viewers who joined us online, heartfelt thanks for tuning in and participating in the two-day conference. We appreciate your time and interest. Once again, I offer our collective gratitude to our founder, Chancellor Bhagwan Shri Sathya Sai Baba, for his constant benevolence. Now, as I leave the stage, I only cease to give voice to the gratitude that I will continue to carry in my heart for each and every one who, in some or the other way, supported this event. Thank you, Sairam.
Thank you, ma'am. The debt has been fully repaid to our heart's content. So the only recourse and the only recompense is start taking more debt from people who have been very loving to all of us in conducting this event to its and helping us to reach the event heights. There is no point in extending her gratitude again, but now let me take up the pleasant task of inviting the Dean of Humanities and Social Sciences, English Language and Literature, Dr. P.L. Rani, to felicitate our distinguished speaker of valedictory session, Professor Bhagyasri. Thank you, ma'am. Before closing this, I would like to make one statement. When I say something, I mean it. Whatever comes to my mind, I would like to put it forth. This is regarding the brain behind this event. I should really call it the kingpin or whatever. Professor P.L. Rani, I always feel one thing. A feeling for somebody is a thought for another. A feeling for one becomes a thought for the other. This statement is made by John Donne. As soon as we start thinking of something, it evolves into a kind of thought in her mind. So I cannot resist from bringing it to the fore of our students and the research scholars who have to work with such agility. That's what I feel. As soon as we start thinking, it immediately transforms into a thought in her mind. So that is the strength that she renders to all of us in getting things done fast and fiery also sometimes. Thank you very much, ma'am. Now let us close the session with Mangalarti.
जगदीश हरे स्वामी सत्य साई हरे भक्त जना संरक्षक भक्त जना संरक्षक परति महेश्वर ओम जय जगदीश हरे शशिवदना श्रीकरा सर्वा प्राणपते स्वामी सर्वा प्राणपते आश्रित कल्पलतिका आपद्बान्धव ओम जय जगदीश हरे माता पिता गुरुदैवमु मरियन्तयु नीवे स्वामी मरियन्तयु नीवे नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नागेन्द्रशयना ओम जय जगदीश हरे ओंकार रूप ओजस्वी ओ साई महादेवा सत्य साई महादेवा मंगल हारति अंतुको मंदर गिरिधारी ओम जय जगदीश हरे नारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण नारायण ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण नारायण ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण नारायण ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा ओम शांति शांति शान्तिः समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु शांति शांति शांतिः जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।
Saramol.